To understand the betrayals, meet the stranger. Meeting the stranger, the empathy gap autopsy. Get this, your brain literally files future you under someone else. Here's the reveal. When researchers show you an age-progressed photo of yourself, the regions that light up for me, and for people you love, the medial prefrontal cortex and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, don't flare, they dim, like you switched profiles to a different person. Hal Hershfield's team found that the smaller that overlap, the flimsier the saving and health choices. Translation: at 11:47 p.m., when you stay up, spend out, or send that text, your brain quietly believes the consequences land on a stranger. That empathy gap has a name in economics: hyperbolic discounting. Near-term rewards are priced sky-high. Future costs get discounted steeply, then flatten later. It's why I'll go to bed after this one wins tonight and loses the month. Add projection bias. We assume tomorrow will feel exactly like we do right now. And hot, cold empathy gaps. Your cool morning self can't predict your hot 11:30 p.m. cravings. And you've got a perfect sabotage loop that feels rational in the moment. Let's make it human. You at 11:47 p.m. The bed is 2 rooms away. Your phone is 1 thumb away. Present comfort wins. Future you pays with a groggy commute and a sharp edge in that meeting. Savings. The cart has a timer. Your retirement doesn't. You treat yourself, then call it tight later. Relationships. You draft the one message you shouldn't send. Dopamine says relief now. Awkward repair gets forwarded to the stranger you wake up as. The pattern isn't evil, it's accounting. You're undercharging today's choice for tomorrow's bill. Now layer trauma. When your nervous system learns survival as a primary policy, time compresses. Threat narrows your horizon. The future stops feeling like a place you'll inhabit and starts feeling hypothetical. Here's the second reveal. Clinicians call this a fracture in diachronic unity, the felt continuity of identity across time. If your timeline's been split by grief, neglect, or volatility, mental time travel registers as danger. Why invest in a tomorrow you've never been allowed to trust? Here's where the stakes spike. Identity drift doesn't arrive as a plot twist. It accumulates as a ledger. Small now-favoring choices harden into a life you don't remember authoring. Lower neural overlap with future you predict flimsier long-term choices. Flimsier long-term choices deepen that lack of overlap. You start renting your life by the episode. Each night, each purchase, each scroll, until the lease comes due in a decade stamped with someone else's name. Test yourself quickly. Episodes or identity. Are you living as a sequence of urgent exceptions, or as a story with chapters you can recognize? On a future self-continuity scale, how similar, how caring, how responsible do you feel toward yourself 1, 5, 10 years out? If the answers feel vague, cold, or outsourced to a luckier later version of you, you're not lazy. You're mispriced. What nobody tells you is the brain thinks it's helping. When you're tired, stressed, or lit up by novelty, your valuation function tilts. That hyperbolic curve steepens near the present. The cost of staying up feels tiny. The cost of going to bed feels like work, and your internal accountant makes a snap call to defend mood now. And because projection bias whispers, tomorrow I'll feel different, the penalty gets pushed forward to someone you barely recognize. Micro-stories keep the pattern honest. A student promises morning energy to study, but midnight anxiety needs soothing. Present relief earns an A today, an F tomorrow. A parent skips the walk because rain spits. Future them eats the weather with joint pain. A freelancer says yes to a last-minute gig for the adrenaline bump. Future them says no to deep work with a shallow day. In every scene, the MPFC/VMPFC overlap is the quiet hinge. The less you feel like the same person, the easier it is to ship the mess to that person. There's a darker undertow. If your past taught you that plans get broken by others, you learn to pre-break them yourself to control the pain. That's self-sabotage reframed as self-protection. In trauma logic, betrayal you choose beats betrayal that surprises you. So future you becomes the acceptable. Casualty, better them than you. But it's the same you. Meanwhile, culture lends its own discounting. Social timelines push manufactured urgency. Status now over stability later. The comparison feed acts like a pseudo-discount factor. Likes today feel more valuable than reputation next year. The empathy gap widens because the near-term social reward is so visible and the long-term self-respect is quiet. So what do? Will harder? That's the trap. Willpower argues with the pricing error instead of changing the price. If you keep treating future you like a stranger, morality plays won't help. You need a bridge that does three things at once. Make future you more emotionally real, change the math that favors now, and install behaviors that run when your state is unreliable. Then, instead of policing yourself, you relate to yourself. This is the pivot for people who finally stop the 11:47 p.m. loop. They stop asking, "How do I resist?" and start asking, "How do I cooperate with the person I'm becoming?" To close the empathy gap, we'll expose the math your brain is using, the body states that hijack it, and the systems designed to exploit it. Then build the first plank of the bridge by giving the stranger a face you can care about. The math of self-betrayal, time, risk, and the body. To understand why your inner accountant keeps shortchanging tomorrow, zoom in on the pricing model it's using. Economists once assumed we discount the future smoothly, like a straight slope, exponential. But the body doesn't do straight lines, it does cliffs. Hyperbolic discounting means we slash the value of anything that isn't right now, steeply at first, then more gently later. That curve creates preference reversals. You prefer 8 hours of sleep over Netflix at noon, but at 11:47 p.m., the curve tilts, and one more beats the pillow by a landslide. Here's the tell. Offer someone $50 today, or $60 in a month, and many take the $50. Offer $50 in 11 months, or $60 in 12, and suddenly the $60 feels fine. Same 30-day gap, different spot on the curve. The near-term part of the curve is so steep it drags choices downhill. In real life, that looks like, I'll start Monday, forever, because Monday always lives on the flatter part of the curve, until it doesn't. But the curve doesn't live on paper, it lives in a body full of signals. Interoception, your felt sense of what's happening inside, acts like a CFO with a megaphone. Hunger, tension, restlessness, craving. These states don't just color your choices, they become policy. In hot states, the hyperbolic steepness spikes. The value of immediate relief surges, and delayed benefits fade. That's state-dependent valuation. The same choice, different body, different math. Dopamine brings its own math mistakes. Your brain predicts rewards and updates those predictions when reality surprises it. Novelty delivers bigger positive prediction errors than routine. So a new show, a fresh notification, a just-arrived message overshoots your expectations and spikes dopamine. That spike biases you toward immediate selection, even when the expected value is lower than going to bed, cooking, or opening the document. Routine, by contrast, underpays. The reward is reliable, so the spike is small, which makes the near-term choice with a loud signal win over the long-term choice with a quiet one. Sleep debt tilts the entire playing field. Restrict sleep, and you don't just feel worse, your discount rate jumps. Tired brains sell tomorrow cheaply. Cortisol and fatigue shrink attention control, and risk-taking climbs. The cost of just one more looks tiny because your valuation system is impaired. Add in caffeine loops that keep the arousal system humming, and you've got a perfect recipe for steeper curves at precisely the hours when you make your worst trades. Culture then adds a second clock. Social timelines whisper, now or never, whether it's career milestones, body ideals, or creator cadence. Comparison feeds act like a pseudo-discount factor. Status today feels pricier than stability next year. You're not just discounting the future, you're inflating the present because others can see it. Visibility right now carries a bonus. Invisibility later doesn't trigger your threat system. So you overbuy immediacy and underinvest in continuity. Your gut also carries tags, somatic markers, that quietly price anticipated effort as danger. If the body has learned that effort precedes shame, failure, or rejection, then future effort lights up as a threat. Suddenly, write for 20 minutes isn't a neutral plan, it's a risk signal. The brain slaps an avoidance premium on it. Against that, a zero-effort choice like scrolling looks not only easier but safer. Here's a small, revealing moment. You think, I'll floss tonight. At 9:45 p.m., the anticipated effort is a 5-second nuisance. At 11:47 p.m., with eyelids heavy and phone in hand, that same 5 seconds feels like a tax. Hyperbolic curves amplify tiny frictions near the present. The K-parameter, the steepness, just went up because your state changed. It's not that you became weak. Your internal price model updated to protect you from effort in the moment. Now, notice how platforms target these mechanics. Variable rewards, unpredictable likes, comments, clips, inject prediction errors right where the curve is steepest. Infinite scroll removes stopping cues, so you never reprice the decision. Notifications pull your attention lease into arrears. The cost lands on future you in the form of context-switching hangovers and fractured focus. Save to later sounds kind. It's a micro-debt instrument. Decision fatigue compounds by midnight, and your curve obliges. So what do we do with a brain that runs cliffs, not slopes? We don't argue with it, we design for it. First, we acknowledge that valuation is stateful. Hot state choices need pre-pricing in cold states. Second, we flip signal strength. We attach louder near-term rewards to long-term actions and add tiny frictions to near-term vices. Third, we protect sleep like infrastructure, because nothing steepens your discount rate like exhaustion. Here's the pivot. You're not bad at goals. You're bad at auctions where the rules change every hour. The fix is to set rules that don't. We'll make future you feel closer on your neural map, so the empathy gap narrows. We'll change the math, so now doesn't always win. And we'll install behaviors that survive hot states. But before we build those planks, you need to see where the exploitation lives. Once you see the curve, you'll spot every product built to farm it. Then we'll start pricing power back into your hands. How platforms farm your future, the exploitation engine. While that valuation cliff is steepest late at night, there's an entire industry waiting at the bottom with a net. Platforms don't just notice your present bias, they engineer for it. Variable rewards plus infinite scroll is the perfect harness. Slot machine schedules, unpredictable hits of novelty, likes, comments, generate reward prediction errors that spike dopamine. Each small surprise feels bigger than it should, so the immediate choice wins again. Infinite scroll removes the natural stopping cue. No, end of page, no pause to reprice. Your internal accountant never gets to ask, is this still worth it? Design tilts the table further with friction asymmetry. 1 click to join, 5 screens to cancel, 2 taps to try free, an email maze to quit. The now option is greased, the later option is sandpapered. Every extra field, password, and confirmation stacks effort right where the hyperbolic curve is most unforgiving. Remember the K parameter, steep near the present? Platforms add grains of sand until it becomes a dune you won't climb. Notifications lease your attention, and future you pays the interest. Intermittent cues, badges, pings, banners, are tiny maybe rewards that drag you back into immediate mode. Even when you don't tap, your working memory gets taxed. Context switching leaves residue. It takes minutes to re-enter deep work. Those minutes are financed by someone, usually the version of you who wakes up tomorrow wondering why the day feels scattered. Here's a micro-story. You sit down to draft an important note. A red dot blooms on the corner of an app. You tell yourself you'll peek, then come right back. That peek opens a loop, new message, new thread, new clip, and the loop chains to another. You return to the draft 24 minutes later with a thin sense of unease and half the thread of your thought. Tonight, that seems like nothing. Tomorrow, it's another small tax on your best work. Save to later sounds generous. It's actually a micro-debt instrument. You click to push a decision forward because present you is overloaded. The debt lands on future you, who inherits a bloated watch list and a foggier sense of priority. Multiply that by a dozen apps, and you've created a portfolio of deferred choices that all come due when your energy's already low. Decision fatigue eats plans, the curve steepens, the stranger pays. Identity bait is the subtler trap. Feeds brim with self-optimizing content that feels like self-authoring. You consume routines, hacks, frameworks, dopamine tied to novelty, not to your long-horizon goals. You feel the glow of improvement without the behavior that earns it. Algorithmic novelty bonds to your state right now, not to the future-aligned story you meant to write. You become a collector of possible selves, not a builder of a chosen one. Meanwhile, frictionless now meets high friction later in money. One-click buys with autofill glide. Returns require boxes, labels, and time. Subscriptions start instantly. Cancellations hide behind chatbots. Companies know that the slightest added step near the present can slash completion. They place those steps where your discounting is sharpest. It's not malice, it's math implemented in code. Creators feel it as cadence pressure. Post now, because the algorithm rewards freshness. Research later, because depth is heavy. The platform's feedback loop is loud in the moment and nearly silent about long-term brand trust. Present visible metrics inflate the value of today. Invisible compounding devalues the future. If you're running on that fuel, your output swings between bursts and burnout, and future you inherits the troughs. Across town, a different lever gets pulled, engineered streaks. Daily check-ins, flame icons, XP ladders. designed to convert consistency into loss aversion. Miss a day, and the app mourns your broken run, even if the streak never mapped to anything you actually care about. The signal decouples from meaning, but your brain still treats it as a near-term penalty to avoid. You end up protecting the streak, not the story. So what now? Delete everything. That's the all-or-nothing reflex talking. The point isn't purity, it's pricing power. We can use the same levers in reverse. Build friction for now, flow for later. Add one step to the vice. Require a passcode you give to a buddy. Bury the app in a folder behind a boring friction ritual. Remove one step from the virtue. Place the book on the pillow by dinner. Stage the running shoes by the door. Pre-open the doc you'll write in tomorrow. Notifications? Least fewer minutes. Batch them. Turn off the intermittent ones, the badges and buzzers that act like mini slot pulls, and pull from your apps on your schedule. Treat save to later as a contract. Either calendar it or delete it. Don't create debt you wouldn't sign for. And about identity bait. Set a rule that you can only consume how to content in tandem with doing. That's temptation bundling. Pair the indulgence with the effort. Study while you stretch, listen while you clean, watch editing tutorials only while editing. You graft near-term reward onto long-term action, so the steep part of the curve works for you. We won't win this by out-arguing design. We win by meeting design with design. In a minute, we'll map your personal trade routes, where the curve always bends you, and then we'll start building the counterweights. Before that, remember one thing. Platforms are optimized to capture the present. You're here to protect your future. Different goals, different math.